In this video, you're going to learn what the single best communication platform is for you and your assistant to communicate on, and I'll tell you right now, it's not Slack and it's definitely not email. My name is Tim Francis. I'm the founder of a company called Great Assistant. We've helped hire over 500 executive assistants for entrepreneurs who are wanting to go from 6 figures to 7 figures and have mostly an online business. The assistants that we hire are located in the United States and Canada, and we really only work with entrepreneurs also located in the United States and Canada. Oftentimes, I hear entrepreneurs ask me, Tim, how should I work with my assistant? Should we communicate over Slack, over email, over some kind of Facebook Messenger or other DM platform? What should I use? I think that this is an excellent question because if you get this wrong, you're setting yourself up for tons of distraction, tons of frustration. Whereas if you get this right, you're creating a beautiful world full of focus and productivity for you and your assistant as well. So let's begin with what not to do. So what not to do is absolutely do not communicate with your assistant over email. It is a wasteland of distraction for you and it's a wasteland of distraction for them. A biz buddy of mine named Nick Sonnenberg said, an email inbox is an unlimited to-do list that anyone anywhere in the world has access to and is able to assign you an unlimited number of tasks, no matter how irrelevant or silly. I think that's an amazing description of an email inbox. We need to protect you as the high performer, the highest performer of your business from all of that outside distraction. You are a high performer. We need you to maintain and sustain focus on the most important work every single hour of every single working day. To do that, we can't have you in your email inbox unnecessarily. Now, you may not be in a spot where you can get rid of your entire email inbox just yet. That's where I am. I now read, write, and respond to fewer than 10 emails per week. My productivity has gone through the roof. You may not be there. I do talk about that in other videos and how you can make that happen for you. That'll be another video for another time. So in the meantime, at minimum, we can reduce the damage that your email inbox can do on you by just simply communicating with your with your assistant somewhere other than email. So secondly, what we don't want to do is we don't want to have a spread out communication where you're talking to your assistant over Voxer for voice notes and you're talking to your assistant over Slack because you tried it and you thought it was interesting once. And then after that, you're talking to your assistant over like Facebook direct message or Instagram DM or something like that. We need to aggregate all of this, again, to maximize your focus so you can be the high performer of your business and your assistant can also be a high performer as well. Next up, let's talk about the 11 criteria that make the perfect communication tool. And at the end of that, I will tell you the single best communication tool that we've come across to date. So how did we arrive at the best possible communication tool? We actually evaluated 30 different communication tools, including Slack, including popular tools. And we not only evaluated those 30 tools, but we actually deployed 4 of them inside of our business and made full multi-week commitments to each tool to really give it a fair shot. We tried Slack, we tried WhatsApp, which is a simpler tool, but is much more universal. We tried a handful of different tools for real in our business to see how it would go. What we discovered very quickly is that there were these 11 features that make a great communication tool. And I'm looking at my notes here, so please forgive me for glancing down. So first of all, the first quality is we want the access to this tool to be limited to just you and your internal teammates. We don't want the outside world being able to barge in, assign a bunch of tasks, or otherwise slow down you and your team's productivity. Secondly, we want the interface of the tool to promote focus for you and your assistant and any other team members. We don't want a tool where you've got blinking, flashing things. I mean, even if you had a private Facebook group where only you and your team had access to, it was like a secret group. The problem is you still have to make it through this gauntlet of messages and distractions through logging into Facebook before you even get to that private group. So that does not promote focus. Thirdly, we want your message history to be stored into perpetuity. So you can go back and look at history of old conversations you've had, your assistant can do the same. This becomes incredibly important when, for example, it's tax time and you have to go back and say, what were we doing back at that time? What were we buying? Or maybe you have a client issue come up 6 months after you after you brought a client into your program or made a sale to them, and now suddenly they want a refund and you're trying to figure out what happened. So perpetual message history is incredibly important. Next up, the fourth feature is you need to be able to add or delete users as your team members come and go. Your assistant is going to be joining your team, your business is going to grow, you're going to have other people joining your team, so setting a good foundation now where it's really easy to add, edit, or delete team members, while also not having to recreate groups every time we have a new member come in. That kind of happens with iMessage, or at least it did until recently, where every time you wanted to add a new person to a group chat, all of a sudden you had to create a whole new group. Very, very, very slow and inefficient. We don't want that. Next up, we want your tool, this is the fifth feature, to be searchable for messages and keywords. Sometimes we can't remember the entirety of what a conversation was, but remember a product name or a person name. We want to be able to search in the search bar of your tool to come up with the discussion that we're looking for. This next one is interesting. This is one that I would not have thought of initially, but the sixth feature is I want you to be able to actually research the history of your teammates. So if there's ever, for example, something that comes up on the weekend and your teammates aren't available, you could go in and take a look and be able to get a quick answer if there's some kind of an emergency. Likewise, if there's some kind of a dispute, now you can actually go and see the actual messages that went back and forth around a particular topic. Very, 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 very helpful. Also priceless if something tragic were obviously to happen. If you lost someone that became incapacitated, or maybe if they just had some kind of like a hurricane or something hit their house and they had no electricity, you would be able to go in and pick up where they left off. Next feature, this is feature 7, I think, 7, is we want your tool to be able to transmit multimedia files like documents, images, etc. We want that to be attached to messages, which becomes really important when you're co-working and collaborating with teammates. Number 8, we want your tool, your communication tool, to be both web-based and cross-platform and cross-device. We need it to work on both Mac or PC, iPhone or Android. We need it to work desktop, laptop, Mac OS, Windows, iPad, Windows tablet. You just don't know what hardware your assistant and your future teammates are going to have. And so being thoughtful about that at this point gives you a ton of scaling opportunity as your team grows as well. The 9th item is we want our platform to have end-to-end encryption, which becomes incredibly important when you're discussing or sending contracts, financial information, sensitive discussions. We need to make sure that all of that is sensitive. In this era of malware and ransomware attacks, the communication platforms are at risk in a similar way, maybe not the same, but a similar way as your website. And we really don't want outsiders cracking into your team communication, especially if you've got client information, legal contracts, financial information, whatnot. There's also always the very real possibility that one of your teammates, say, loses their cell phone or their laptop gets stolen out of their car or something like that. And we would want to make sure that there's a nice level of encryption and security so that your teammate would be able to maintain as much security as possible despite an otherwise uncomfortable situation. We want to make sure, this is now feature number 10, we want the user interface to be visually easy to look at and easy to learn as well. That's one of my biggest criticisms of Slack, is I find it to be actually very disorganized to look at and not intuitive. Like I have to kind of squint and lean in to be able to really distinguish different threads in conversations and whatnot. Lastly, feature number 11, we want to make sure that the tool that you are using can be turned off when it's not being used. This allows you and or your assistant and or anybody else, when you're not working, just turn off the tool and now it's not dinging, pinging, and ringing. This becomes incredibly helpful. We entrepreneurs oftentimes get late night ideas or early morning shower thoughts or something like that, and we remember something and we ping our assistant quickly, hey, can you add this to the agenda? Or hey, did so-and-so pay us? Did so-and-so sign? Whatever the issue is, if you were texting your assistant, you might be a little concerned that you're making their phone ding, ping, ring in the middle of the night. That's no good. And your assistant probably can't turn off text messaging to their phone like most people. So you're kind of they become a slave to the phone and a slave to text messaging. And that is not okay. That is absolutely not okay. We want them to have choice about when they get notified, when they don't. And so therefore, by choosing something, an app or a platform that can be turned off, now you can send messages anytime, day or night, and not worry about waking up your assistant or bothering them at a very inopportune time. So, okay, so all of this now leads us to what is the best tool? As I mentioned, we reviewed 30 tools. We tested 4 of them live, full deployment in our team. And the single best tool of all is actually something called Shanty. It's spelled C-H-A-N-T-Y. You've probably never heard of it. There are so many communication platforms out there. Slack is definitely the kingpin. I don't know why it's the kingpin, probably because it was one of the earlier tools that came out and was really embraced by Silicon Valley. But I'm telling you, Shanty is way better than Slack, and it meets all of these 11 criteria where Slack does not. And in fact, I don't know of any other tool other than Shanty that actually does meet all 11 features that we were looking for in a communication tool. Now, we call it Shantae on our team to make it sound even more classy, which is nice and fun. So if you're curious about getting a hold of Shantae, I'll put a link below just so that you know that you're making sure that you are going to the correct tool. So there you go. That is the best platform for you and your assistant to communicate on. Best of all, it's scalable to when you have multiple teammates on your team. It's relatively affordable too, which is really, really nice. In fact, I don't know for sure if they have a free trial. They might. We went straight to the paid version because we've got 7 team members. So we were already kind of into the pro version, if you will, but they might even have a free trial if you ever wanted to give it a shot. My name is Tim Francis. I'm the CEO of Great Assistant. Go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel and like this video, and that will make sure that you get all the videos coming out related to the topic of getting a great assistant. All right, talk to you soon, and I'll see you in the next video.